standing quietly behind a marble column at my son's wedding reception when I overheard something that made my stomach drop. My brand new daughter-in-law was whispering to a friend that she planned to have me declared mentally unfit just so she could take my beach house. Without a word, I turned away, walked straight to the bar, and ordered a double whiskey. I smiled at guests, playing the part of the proud mother of the groom. But something inside me shifted forever. The ballroom at Riverside Country Club looked like a spread from a bridal magazine: white roses, golden candlelight, and 200 well-dressed guests beneath sparkling chandeliers. My son David looked sharp in a navy tux, glowing with happiness. I should have felt proud and fulfilled at 63. Instead, I was hiding behind a column like a spy in my own family. "The plan's easy," Jessica whispered, champagne in hand. "We give it 6 months, maybe a year. Take notes. When she starts forgetting things, repeating herself, or getting confused, we get her evaluated." Her friend hesitated. "Isn't that kind of extreme?" Jessica laughed lightly. "She's 63 and living alone in that big house. We're actually doing her a favor. And David deserves that beach house after all she's put him through." Her words hit me like ice water. That house, the one Robert, my late husband, and I bought 3 decades ago, was sacred. It was where David learned to surf, where we had every summer vacation, where Robert proposed. It held every memory I cherished. I backed away slowly, trying to calm the pounding in my chest. Jessica spotted me across the room and gave a cheerful wave, flashing that perfect, pageant-ready smile. I returned the gesture, keeping up appearances. Because that's what mothers do at their sons' weddings. We smile, nod, and pretend everything is just fine. But let me tell you a secret. After 63 years of life, I've become quite good at pretending. David came over and loosened his tie. "Mom, you okay? You look kind of pale." "Just a little tired, sweetheart. It's been a long day." "Jessica wanted to talk to you about holiday plans. She has some ideas about starting new traditions." "I'm sure she does. That sounds lovely. Let's chat later." He gave my shoulder a squeeze and returned to his bride. I watched him go, thinking about the little boy who once cried when he scraped his knee, who promised to always take care of his mom. That boy was gone. Now there was a man standing in his place. A man who, for the past 6 months, had chosen a woman he'd known less than a year over the mother who raised him alone after his father's death. And that's when I took my drink and raised it high. I took a slow sip of the whiskey, letting it burn all the way down. The bartender gave me a curious look. "Rough evening?" he asked. "You could say that," I replied. "Do you believe in karma?" He chuckled. "Ma'am, in this line of work, I've seen enough to believe in everything." "Smart man," I said and set the glass down. Something told me I'd be needing another soon. Rewind 3 months. David had brought Jessica over for the first time. She was exactly the type you'd expect a man to fall for: blonde, 28, with a smile so polished it could sell oceanfront property in Nebraska. "Mom, this is Jessica," David beamed. "Jessica, this is my mother, Margaret. But everyone calls her Maggie." "Mrs. Cooper," she exclaimed, giving me one of those tight, overly rehearsed hugs. "I've heard so much about you. I've been dying to meet the woman who raised such an amazing man." Even then, something about her felt too practiced, too shiny, like a product on a shelf. "Please call me Maggie," I replied with a polite smile. "It's lovely to meet you too." We sat in my living room, and Jessica complimented everything she laid eyes on, from the antique vases to my coffee selection. David watched her like she was telling the story of the universe. "How did you two meet?" I asked. "At the gym," David jumped in, not even letting her speak. "She was struggling with weight, so I offered to help." "How romantic," I said, although something about him cutting her off struck me as odd. Jessica giggled. "He's exaggerating. I wasn't struggling. I just pretended to." I'd been watching him for weeks, trying to figure out how to approach him. At least she admitted to being calculated. And what do you do for work, Jessica? I used to work in social services, helping families navigate hard situations. But now I'm shifting into wellness coaching. Social services, evaluating families, mental health. That was a red flag waving right in front of me, and I brushed it aside like a fool. Over the following weeks, Jessica became a constant figure in my life. She'd stop by uninvited, critique my kitchen layout, offer unsolicited opinions on my finances and garden. You know, Maggie, she said while washing dishes I hadn't asked her to touch, David says you manage all your investments yourself. That must be so overwhelming at your age. I gave her a sweet smile. I've been handling my finances since long before you were born, dear. Of course, she chirped. I just meant, with all the technology and market changes, maybe David could start helping with that. Lighten your load. David, who never cared about my accounts until she showed up. David, who'd asked me for money 3 times that year just to pay off credit cards. I appreciate your concern, but I'm perfectly capable, I replied. She flashed that plastic-perfect smile again. Absolutely. I just hate to think of you alone in this big house. Like living alone was a disease. But the hardest part wasn't Jessica. It was watching David change. My son, who used to call me every Sunday without fail. Who brought me tulips every Mother's Day. Who sat beside me for hours while we sorted through Robert's things after the funeral. Now, suddenly he was too busy to visit. Too tired to meet for lunch. Jessica thinks we spend too much time together, he told me one day. She says it's not healthy for a grown man to be so close to his mom. This from the man who'd lived rent-free in my pool house for 2 years. But I kept quiet. 'Cause that's what mothers do. We bite our tongues and pray our children wake up before it's too late. But prayers only work for those willing to listen. 2 weeks after their little how we met tale, David made another announcement. Jessica and I are moving in together, he said, pacing my kitchen while she sat silently at the table with that calm, calculated smile. In the Maple Street house? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. Yeah. She loves it. It's perfect for us. A great place to start our future. That house wasn't just some spare property. I'd bought it 3 years ago as an investment. Then, after David's last girlfriend emptied his savings and broke his heart, I let him live there rent-free, temporarily. But temporary had quietly turned into permanent. That's great, honey, I said carefully. So, have you two discussed when you'll take over the mortgage payments? His face dropped like I'd insulted him. Well, I thought. We're family. I figured we could work something out. We already did for 2 years. Jessica reached across the table and rested her hand on mine. Maggie, I hope you don't think I'm pushing David into anything. I really want you to know I respect the relationship you two have. I could almost admire how good she was at pretending. Of course not, dear. I'm just realistic when it comes to finances. She gave me her signature solution smile. Maybe we could ease into things. David could start with utilities and later ease into part of the mortgage. I'd hate for him to feel overwhelmed. Overwhelmed by paying his own bills. 32. That's a very thoughtful idea, I said, my voice steady even though my blood was boiling. David visibly relaxed. See? I told you Jessica's amazing. She always finds middle ground. I bet she did. By the end of the month, they had officially moved in. Jessica got rid of most of the furniture and replaced it with what she called modern neutral tones. It looked like something out of a catalog, cold and overpriced. Utility bills stopped coming to me. But no mortgage payments started either. Called David. Jessica answered. Hi, Maggie. David's in the shower. Everything okay? I just wanted to follow up on the house payments we discussed. Oh, right. We meant to talk to you. Money's been a little tight with the move and my shift in career. Course it was. We're hoping to get things back on track next month. That infamous we. As if they were some power couple instead of two broke freeloaders with matching egos. Next month is fine, I said, knowing it wouldn't happen. It didn't. Neither did the one after that. Then, one day, I drove by the house and saw a brand new BMW parked in the driveway. David's old Honda? Nowhere in sight. That night, I called him. Mom, what's up? Nice car. Silence. How do you know about that? I own the house. I check on it now and then. That's kind of invasive, don't you think? Invasive? Checking on my own investment property? He cleared his throat. Jessica needed reliable transportation for her business. A BMW is reliable? Must be quite the startup. We got a good deal. Speaking of deals, any idea when you'll begin covering the mortgage? David sighed. Jessica thinks. Well, we both think you're being a bit controlling about the money stuff. Controlling? 'Cause I want my adult son to pay his own bills. Use the house like leverage. Because it's mine, David. Jessica says. That was all I ever heard anymore. You know what? I said calmly. You're right. We should talk about what healthy boundaries really look like. He sounded relieved. Good. I'm glad you're open to that. Jessica's really insightful about this kind of thing. It's what she used to do for a living. Yes, it was. And that was exactly why I was done ignoring the signs. That conversation with David happened on a Tuesday. By Friday morning, I was sitting in my attorney's office with a folder in my lap and a plan forming in my mind. Are you sure about this, Margaret? Thomas Hartwell, our family lawyer for over 15 years, asked as he leaned back in his chair. He drafted Robert's will, helped me settle insurance claims, and even wrote up David's original lease agreement for the pool house. Absolutely, I said, voice steady. Both properties? Yes. The Maple Street house and the beach house in Monterey. Thomas raised an eyebrow. That beach house is worth well over $2 million. These are significant assets. That's exactly why I want them sold. Quietly. Properly. He tapped his pen thoughtfully. Does David know? No. David assumes a lot of things. That's part of the problem. He'll have to be notified eventually. As your heir. He's not inheriting anything yet, Thomas. I'm still alive. Both properties are in my name alone. I can do what I please. Legally, yes, he nodded. But have you considered what this might do to your relationship with him? I had. I thought about Jessica's fake laugh echoing behind that marble pillar at the wedding. About the unpaid utilities. About my son, the boy I raised alone, now treating me like some stubborn old woman standing in the way of his beachfront fantasy. Tell me, Thomas, I said. What happens when people bite the hand that feeds them? They shouldn't be surprised when the feeding stops. Exactly. If we price them to move and you're not looking to squeeze every penny, we could close both deals in 60 days. Perfect. Let's do it. I want quick and clean sales. He scribbled notes. Where should the funds be deposited? New account. Different bank. I'll give you the info next week. And David? What about him? When do you plan to tell him? I'll let him know when it's necessary. Thomas gave me a look. He knew me well enough not to argue when I'd made up my mind. One more thing, I added. I need you to look into someone for me. Who? Jessica Morrison. 28 years old. formerly in social services. I want everything: employment history, legal records, anything you can dig up. Any particular reason? Call it maternal instinct. Thomas wrote it down. I'll have something by next week. I left his office with a strange, unfamiliar lightness in my chest. It wasn't about the money. Letting go of the beach house would hurt, no doubt about it. That home held more memories than I could count. But this wasn't about memories anymore. It was about taking back control. Jessica thought I was an easy mark, a lonely old widow too sentimental to defend herself. She had no idea just how wrong she was. The phone rang one Thursday morning in October. I knew the voice instantly, tight, panicked. "Mom, we need to talk. Right now." "Good morning, sweetheart," I replied, calm as ever. "How are you?" "Can you come over?" he rushed. "Jessica's at work, so we can talk privately." Privately. In other words, without Jessica's watchful eye. "I'll be there soon." I took my time driving to the Maple Street house. I wanted to savor the moment, my last time pulling into that driveway as the legal owner. The BMW was gone, replaced by David's shiny new pickup truck, another shiny toy he definitely couldn't afford. Before I even knocked, he flung open the front door. Disheveled, unshaven, and wearing a wrinkled shirt, he looked like a man unraveling. "We got a notice," he blurted. "The house is being sold. They're giving us 30 days to get out." I stepped past him and into the sterilized, overly staged living room Jessica had decorated in shades of beige and cold gray. "Oh? That's odd. Who's selling it?" I asked innocently. "Very funny, Mom. You know exactly who's selling it." "I sold my house," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "Not yours." David's expression twisted in disbelief. "This is our home. We've been living here, building our life. You can't just throw us out like this." "On the contrary," I replied calmly, opening my purse and pulling out a folded document. "You signed a lease agreement when you moved in. 30-day notice clause. Standard procedure." He stared at the paper like it was written in a foreign language. I thought this was just a formality. Family paperwork. All contracts are formalities until someone violates them. We didn't break anything. You stopped paying rent after month 1. You bought luxury vehicles while ignoring utilities. And, according to what I've learned, Jessica's been telling people she owns this house. That last part was an educated guess. But the way his eyes shifted told me everything. "She didn't mean it like that," he mumbled. "People ask questions when they see your name's not on the title." She was trying to avoid awkward conversations. "By lying," I said flatly. "To protect your privacy." "Sure." I slipped the lease back into my purse. "Where is Jessica today, by the way?" "She's at her new office, launching her wellness business." "With what money?" "She has investors." "Do these investors know she's been living here rent-free for 6 months?" "Mom, this is getting ridiculous. We're family. Families support each other." I looked at him for a long moment. "Yes, but when was the last time you supported me?" "I help you all the time," he insisted. "When we have dinner. When I come over and eat my food. Or ignore my calls. Or tell me I'm too controlling." David slumped onto Jessica's immaculate white couch. "This isn't fair. We're getting married. We need stability. Then get jobs that offer it. We have jobs. Jessica has a startup with mystery backers. You've got a consulting gig that barely covers your car payment. That's not employment, David. That's wishful thinking." "So this is punishment? Because we're not successful enough for you?" I stood in silence for a moment. That was the most twisted thing he could have said, and it cut. "This isn't punishment," I finally said. "This is self-preservation. I'm not a bank, David. And I'm not a fool." He was quiet. "When's the last time you called me just to ask how I'm doing?" I added softly. "Not to ask for money. Not to criticize me. Just to check in." David opened his mouth, closed it again. "Exactly." I walked toward the door and paused. "Oh, and one more thing. The beach house? Sold. Just in case Jessica had plans for it." I didn't look back even when he called after me. 3 weeks passed in silence. Then the silence broke, not from David but from Jessica. She called me directly. No fake warmth this time. "Maggie, we need to talk." "Hello, Jessica. How are you settling in at your sister's place?" "We're staying there temporarily. This situation is unacceptable." "I'm sorry to hear you're having trouble finding housing. Don't play games with me. You know exactly what you've done." There it was, the real Jessica. Mask off. "I sold 2 homes that I legally own. I'm still not sure why that upsets you." "Those houses were David's inheritance. And David will inherit what I choose to leave him when I die. Until then, they were mine, and now they're not." "You can't just cut your son out of your life because he fell in love." I let out a quiet laugh. "This isn't about love, Jessica. It's about manipulation, yours." She was silent for a beat. Then, like a cobra striking, she snapped. "You bitter old woman." There it was. Finally. "I may be older, Jessica, but I'm not bitter. Bitter people complain. I take action. David deserves better than this." "You're right. He deserves a mother who raised him to be strong, independent, and appreciative. Too bad I failed at that." Her tone dropped, cold and clinical now. "This isn't over, Maggie." "Oh, I think it is, unless you have something else to say." She did. "David's been different lately. Since you kicked us out. He's forgetting things. Getting confused. His mood swings are worrying." My stomach clenched. What kind of things is he forgetting? Conversations, appointments, directions. He couldn't even remember how to get to the grocery store we've used for months. That's serious. Has he seen a doctor? "I think the whole family needs help," she said calmly. "This dynamic between you and David is toxic. The way you isolate him. The financial pressure. It's classic emotional abuse." "I see. I work in this field. I recognize the signs. I think we should consider family therapy. With someone who specializes in elder care and family dysfunction." Elder care. Like I was some fragile relic needing supervision. "That's very generous of you," I said sweetly. "Send me the referrals. I'll think about it." "Good. I'll email you some names. They're excellent with aging parents." "I'm sure they are." When I hung up, I sat alone in my kitchen, staring at nothing. Jessica was laying the groundwork, building her story. Confused mother. Isolated son. Mental decline. Elder abuse. She was good. I'll give her that. But she made one fatal mistake. She told me exactly what she was planning. And that gave me time to prepare. The intervention happened on a chilly Tuesday morning in November. I was making coffee, enjoying a rare quiet moment when I heard multiple car doors slam shut outside. Through the kitchen window, I saw David's truck. Then a silver sedan I didn't recognize. And behind that, a white van with discreet lettering. The doorbell rang. I opened the door to find a small group standing on my front porch. David, Jessica, a man in a suit, and a woman in scrubs. Mom, David said, voice tight. We need to talk. Well, good morning, I replied. This is quite the crowd for a weekday. The man in the suit stepped forward. Mrs. Cooper, I'm Dr. Franklin. I'm with Serenity Springs Mental Health. Your family has expressed some serious concerns. How kind of them. Jessica stepped forward, trying to look gentle. Maggie, we're here because we care. David's told Dr. Franklin about some of your recent behaviors. David wouldn't even look at me. Mom, he mumbled. You sold the properties. Without any warning. Without any logic. It's not normal. Doctor. Franklin looked down at his clipboard. Mrs. Cooper, are you currently taking any medications? Just vitamins. Any changes in sleep, appetite, mood? I sleep just fine. I eat well. And my mood? Honestly, better than it's been in years. He made a note. The nurse stepped closer. Mrs. Cooper, I'm Patricia. Sometimes when we age, we don't always recognize the changes in ourselves. I tilted my head. How old are you, Patricia? I'm 34. I'm 63. So you'll be explaining aging to someone with nearly 3 decades more experience? Franklin cleared his throat. Your family has shared documentation, examples of forgetfulness, confusion, questionable financial moves. Jessica held up her phone. I've recorded several conversations. Things you've said that don't sound rational. May I hear them? This isn't a courtroom, David interjected. We're trying to help. By showing up uninvited with medical professionals? By attempting to have me committed? Jessica put on her best concerned voice. Doctor, Franklin can help evaluate you, Maggie. Just to make sure you're safe. Safe from what exactly? From making decisions that hurt you. And the people who love you. I turned to my son. My boy. The one who once called me his hero. David, look at me. He finally met my eyes. Do you really believe I've lost my mind? I believe you need help, Mom. And I believe Jessica knows how to get it for you. Of course he did. Doctor. Franklin stepped in again. We're suggesting a 72-hour evaluation. Basic assessments. Observations. And if you refuse, your family has the right to petition for emergency commitment. Emergency? Based on what? Impulsive asset liquidation. Social isolation. Paranoia. And how much is this 72-hour vacation going to cost? Insurance typically covers. I don't carry mental health coverage. Jessica spoke up. Don't worry about that. We'll handle it. Using what money? I asked flatly. You can't afford rent. Jessica didn't flinch. We're focused on your well-being, not costs. I nodded slowly. Very well, I said. Let me pack a bag. David sighed with relief. Thank you, Mom. This is for the best. I'm sure it is. Upstairs, I packed clothes into a suitcase. But I also made 3 phone calls. First, to Thomas. It's happening, I said. Are you sure you want to follow through? 100%. If I don't contact you within a week, proceed with everything. Understood. Second, to the bank. I need access to my safe deposit box. Today. Yes, I know it's last minute. This is urgent. Third, to a man Jessica probably didn't even know existed. Detective Morrison? This is Maggie Cooper. I think it's time we talked about your sister. Serenity Springs looked exactly how you'd expect a facility for troublesome elders to look. Too clean, too polite, too fake. place to tuck away people who got in the way. Doctor. Franklin didn't stick around. He handed me off to another doctor, a much younger woman named Dr. Patricia Summers. "I'll be conducting your evaluation, Mrs. Cooper," she said in that overly gentle tone professionals use when they think you're 2 minutes from forgetting your own name. "Your family is deeply concerned about recent behavioral changes." "My family is concerned about losing their access to free housing," I replied. She raised an eyebrow and jotted something on her clipboard. "Tell me about your relationship with your son. Which version do you want? The boy I raised, or the man I don't recognize anymore?" "You seem angry. Wouldn't you be?" "Anger can sometimes be a symptom of cognitive decline, especially in women my age," I interrupted. She didn't respond, just kept writing. "How long have you been doing this, Dr. Summers?" 5 years. "And how many family financial disputes have you seen disguised as mental health crises?" She blinked. "Excuse me." "You heard me." Another pause. Another scribble. "Let's run some basic cognition assessments. What year is it?" 2025. "And the president?" "Regrettably, Donald Trump." "Where are you now?" "In a facility where my son's girlfriend is trying to label me senile so she can get her hands on what's left of my estate." She made a note. "Mrs. Cooper, these types of paranoid thoughts. Did you look into Jessica Morrison's employment history?" Her pen stopped. "She worked in adult protective services, evaluating older adults. She knows exactly how to manipulate this system." "And how do you know that?" "Because I did my homework. I'm not paranoid. I'm prepared." And I was. For the next 48 hours, I played the game. I answered every test question. I remembered dates, names, phone numbers. I asked intelligent questions. I didn't lose my temper. I made polite conversation with staff. I also made an ally. Her name was Nurse Angela. She'd worked at Serenity Springs for 15 years and seen it all. I think she spotted me for what I was pretty quickly. "You don't belong here," she whispered while taking my vitals. "I've seen this movie before. Pretty girl. Older guy. Family turns on mom. Happens more often than you think." "How does it usually end?" "Depends. Most times the family wins. The old person gets medicated, put in a home. Property gets restructured. And the other times?" Angela smiled. "Sometimes the old person turns out to be smarter than anyone expected." I looked her in the eye. "Hypothetically, if someone in my position wanted to fight back, what would she need to do?" "Document everything. Record dates, names, tests, conversations. Get copies of her medical file. And make sure someone on the outside knows the truth." "Smart advice." She winked. "I've still got 30 years till retirement. Might as well do some good." On my third day, she handed me a manila envelope. This came in through legal mail. Inside was everything Thomas had promised: Jessica's full employment record, 3 past jobs, all ending in allegations of elder exploitation, 2 civil cases settled quietly, and 1 felony fraud conviction from Nevada 5 years ago. At the bottom was a note: "Mrs. Cooper, Jessica is my half-sister. I've been trying to build a case against her for years. You might be the breakthrough. Let's talk when you're out. Detective Morrison." I carefully folded the documents and handed them back to Nurse Angela. "Could you keep these safe for me?" She nodded. "Of course. Hypothetically speaking, when will you need them?" "Tomorrow morning," I said. "I have a feeling I'm about to be declared competent." She gave me a knowing smile. "Funny how that tends to happen. Dr. Summers delivered the verdict on my third morning, though she didn't look thrilled about it. Mrs. Cooper, she said, flipping through her notes, I've completed your evaluation. While there are clear signs of stress and some emotional strain, I found no indication of cognitive impairment or mental illness that would justify continued psychiatric treatment. Shocking, I said dryly. However, she added quickly, I do believe family counseling would be beneficial. It's clear the dynamics between you and your son are complex. I'm sure that's one way to put it. Side in the main lobby, David and Jessica were waiting. David gave me a careful hug that felt about as warm as a wet towel. I'm so relieved, Mom. We were just really worried. Were you? Jessica's polished smile was back. Welcome home, Maggie. I hope you're feeling better. Oh, much better, I said, my voice smooth as silk. As we rode back in David's truck, Jessica turned in the passenger seat and looked at me like nothing had ever happened. I think this whole experience taught us something important. Communication really is the key to strong families. I couldn't agree more. I was thinking, maybe we could all start fresh? Have dinner tonight? Just the three of us. Reconnect. That sounds wonderful, I said. Why don't you come to my house around 7? David glanced sideways. Are you sure you're up for cooking? Oh, I won't be cooking, I said with a smile. I'm ordering in. Something special. Perfect, Jessica chirped. We'll bring wine. Lovely. They dropped me off with their usual promises. See you soon. We're so glad you're home. And I waved from the porch until they were out of sight. Then I got to work. First, I called Detective Morrison. I'm out. Can we meet? Right now, he said. And I'll bring backup. Second, I called Thomas. Execute everything tonight. The full plan. Are you sure, Margaret? Absolutely. And Thomas, make sure the process server knows to be at my house at 7 p.m. Third, I called Nurse Angela. I need every piece of my file. All the documentation. Every test result. Every note. It's already copied and sealed, she replied. I'll drop it by this afternoon. Last, I called the best catering company in town. Dinner for 8. Delivered at 6:30. Something impressive. No budget limit. By 6:30, the food arrived, enough for a banquet. 6:45, 3 unmarked cars rolled into my driveway. Detective Morrison and 2 other officers stepped out. At exactly 7 o'clock, the doorbell rang. David and Jessica were all smiles. Come in, I said warmly. There are some people I'd like you to meet. Jessica stepped into the living room and froze. Hello, Jess, Morrison said calmly. Been a while. David looked around in confusion. Mom, what's going on? Who are these people? David, I said softly. Meet Detective Morrison, Jessica's half-brother. Jessica's face lost all its color. Dane. What are you doing here? I'm doing my job. Then he turned to me. Mrs. Cooper, would you like to explain, or shall I? I nodded. I'll take it from here. I turned to my son. Jessica has done this before. At least 3 times. She targets men with wealthy relatives. Then she manipulates them into cutting off their families, stages mental health crises, and gains access to their assets. David blinked, his face pale. That can't be true. Is it? I asked Morrison. He stepped forward. Jessica Morrison, also known as Jessica Wells and Jessica Martinez, is currently under investigation in multiple states for elder exploitation and fraud. She was convicted in Nevada for scamming an elderly man out of his pension. David looked at Jessica, stunned. Is that true? Jessica's eyes darted around. It's not what it sounds like. Morrison continued, undeterred. In Arizona, Margaret Thornfield, committed to a mental facility under false claims, died there 3 months after signing over her home. In Colorado, Harold Brennan, same pattern, still institutionalized. This is insane, Jessica hissed. They're twisting everything. David sank slowly into a chair, stunned. Jessica, I said, the engagement ring you're wearing belonged to Margaret Thornfield. Her hand instinctively clutched the diamond. You don't understand, she snapped. These people were being exploited by their families. I was helping them. By draining their bank accounts? Leaving them to die in locked wards? David looked at the ring, then at her, then at me. You targeted me, he said, voice shaking. This whole relationship. It was never real, was it? David, please. You played me. Morrison stepped forward. Jessica Morrison, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, falsifying medical records, and elder abuse. As he began reading her rights, she turned to me one last time, eyes blazing. You think you've won, she spat. Your son will never forgive you for this. You ruined his life just to prove you're smarter than me. I looked her dead in the eye. No. I saved his life and mine. Jessica was still shouting as they led her out of my home in handcuffs. The officers didn't react. They'd clearly heard worse. David just sat there, motionless on the couch, staring at the door long after it closed behind her. The silence was deafening. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely more than a whisper. Mom, I'm so sorry. I nodded but said nothing. There was nothing I could say that would hit harder than what he'd just seen with his own eyes. I don't know how to make this right, he continued. I believed her. I really thought you were the one losing it. She made me believe. He trailed off. I sat beside him, calm but firm. She was good at what she did, I said. She studied people like me for a living. She knew exactly how to push every button and how to turn you against me. He looked at his hands. I let her. I didn't question anything. You were trying to warn me, and I chose her over you. I let that hang in the air for a moment before I answered. David, I forgave you the moment you realized what had happened, but that doesn't mean it didn't hurt. I understand, he said quickly. I do. I hope you really do. 'Cause we didn't just almost lose money, David. We nearly lost each other. Tears welled up in his eyes. She almost destroyed everything. Yes. And you helped her. That landed hard, but he didn't deny it. I thought I was protecting her from you, he admitted. She made it sound like you were unstable, controlling, dangerous. I didn't even stop to think about how out of character that was. That's what manipulators do, I said gently. They isolate you from the people who've always been in your corner. Then they take everything. How do we fix this? He asked, eyes red, voice raw. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw my son again. Not the gullible man who'd walked into a trap, but the boy I raised. A little bruised, a lot wiser. We start slow, one step at a time, and we do it with honesty. He nodded. I want that. And just so we're clear, the houses are sold. That money is mine. I'm not giving it back. David winced but didn't argue. I know. I don't deserve it. You're right. But when you're ready to rebuild your real life, not the one Jessica fed you, I'll be here to help. Why? He asked. After everything? Because I'm still your mother. And mothers don't give up on their children, even when their children give up on them. 6 months passed. I moved into a beautiful beachfront condo. smaller than the house but filled with sunlight and peace. I'd poured so much of myself into that old beach house, but letting it go hadn't broken me. It had freed me. One morning I got a call from David. He'd found a real job, steady income, health insurance. He'd even moved into a modest apartment and started seeing a therapist. Bit by bit, he was paying off the debt Jessica had racked up in his name. "I'm trying, Mom," he said. "I know you are," I replied. And I meant it. We started having dinner together once a month. It was awkward at first, but over time we laughed again, talked, reconnected. Jessica was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. According to Detective Morrison, it should have been longer, but plea deals are how the system works. She was also ordered to pay restitution to her previous victims, though most of them would never see a penny. But there was one bit of justice that made it all worth it. Harold Brennan, the man she'd helped institutionalize in Colorado, had been released and reunited with his family. Sometimes justice comes late, but it still comes. One evening, my phone buzzed with a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Mrs. Cooper, this is Sarah Chen. Detective Morrison gave me your number. I think my stepmother may be doing the same thing to my father that Jessica did to you. Could we talk?" I smiled. "Of course. When would you like to meet?" People sometimes ask me if I regret any of it. If I regret selling the houses, cutting my son off financially, turning Jessica in, or refusing to just let it go. The answer is simple: no. Not even for a second. This past year taught me something important, something I wish I'd learned sooner. Being a mother doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. It doesn't mean letting yourself be manipulated just to keep the peace. And it certainly doesn't mean allowing your love to be weaponized against you. I used to believe that unconditional love meant endless patience, limitless forgiveness, and giving until there was nothing left. But I've learned that real love, healthy love, includes boundaries. It includes saying no. And sometimes it includes walking away. Jessica saw me as an easy mark. An aging widow with sentimental attachments and a soft spot for her son. She wasn't entirely wrong. I am sentimental. And I do love my son. But I'm not weak. She thought I'd go quietly. That I'd question myself. That I'd let her smile and her manipulation talk me out of what I knew in my gut to be true. She underestimated the one thing she couldn't fake: experience. I've lived a long life, raised a child alone, buried a husband, built a future from scratch. I've survived heartbreak, grief, and now betrayal. And I'm still standing. Better yet, I'm thriving. That night, as I sat on the balcony of my condo, glass of wine in hand, I watched the sunset melt across the Pacific in strokes of gold and rose. The air was crisp, the waves rhythmic. Peaceful. Mine. David and I weren't the same. We'd never be what we once were. But we were rebuilding, slowly, honestly. One dinner at a time. One apology at a time. He was making real changes. Living on his own. Making his own way. And maybe, just maybe, becoming the man I'd always hoped he would be. Jessica, on the other hand, was exactly where she belonged, behind bars. And I had no doubt she'd try again someday. But not with me. And hopefully not with Sarah Chen's father either. I'd be helping her now, guiding her through what to look for, what questions to ask, how to fight back. Because once you've seen the game, you don't fall for the same tricks twice. Some might say I overreacted. That I should have been more forgiving, more patient. But those people haven't stood where I stood. They haven't been gaslit by their own child. They haven't heard their name whispered behind a pillar like a problem to be solved. They haven't been ambushed in their own kitchen by a fake intervention funded by a scammer with a pretty face. If they had, they'd understand. We mothers, the real ones, we give and give and give. But at some point, we must remember that we're people too. We deserve respect. We deserve peace. We deserve to be more than the stepping stones to someone else's future. So here's to second chances, the ones we make for ourselves. Here's to mothers who stand up, speak out, and take back control. And here's to the quiet strength of every woman who's ever been underestimated. Thank you for listening. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to subscribe and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters.